What's up, everyone? This is Nox, and welcome to the farming strategy that I've been doing on the Zero to Hero Strength Stacker. We made some upgrades to the character, but this farming strategy is kind of what got me there. I just finished my second set of maps doing this. We did a total of, 12 sets, so 48 maps. And this is a destructive play conqueror strategy using bestiary and betrayal to sort of supplement our income while we are doing that. So I'm just going to jump in and do an example map. For the scarabs, we're using two bestiary scarab of the herd, one duplicating, one bestiary scarabs, just so we make sure Einhar is on the map. And then we have a betrayal scarab of reinforcements here. We just do conqueror maps. We do T16. I reroll these to beach, and I will show you how to do that here shortly. And then just quantity in the map device. So very little map investment. These scarabs are all pretty cheap, at least at the time of this recording. We make sure we have Maven on the influence, and I will showcase the Atlas at the end. So these I pretty much speed run. We're pretty fast character right now. I skip all the breach stuff. I skip anything that is not beast related or betrayal related. We'll pick up that chaos orb though. And we sort of just, delete everything. I try to skip the beasts that are bad. Sometimes it's hard to see. I know the Phenomenal Plague Arachnid is good, so I will kill that. The only downside to this strategy is sometimes, Einhar takes a little bit to capture the beasts, which sucks, but generally speaking, as you go through and you practice this strategy, you'll get to know more and more what beasts are worth picking up and what beasts are not. We definitely want to try to get all the yellow beasts as they sell for a considerable amount. And then here's a betrayal encounter here. We sort of just delete them instantly. And I'm going to showcase how I do betrayal. So I basically look, and the lowest rank guy, I grab him and I click execute. I never remove anyone from the Immortal Syndicate unless I didn't have Gravicius. So Haku here, I'm going to interrogate. Asling here, I am going to interrogate. And we're just trying to rush safe houses as quickly as possible. We immediately got the second betrayal encounter. Elrion is the lowest, so we execute him. Corella is higher, so we just interrogate him. And then we move to the next. So pretty quick, only a minute and a half into this map. And we are pretty much done. Looks like we've captured 18 out of 19 beasts. I did miss a betrayal encounter back here that I will quickly do, just to showcase how it actually works. Ideally, you wouldn't be yapping to a YouTube video, so you wouldn't miss this when you first walk by it. But it's pretty fast. Just interrogate there. Anytime there's just one, I just interrogate them. I just want as much safe house knowledge as possible. We can grab this last yellow beast really quick, and then we are good to kill the boss. So we pop over here. I drop a portal just in case. Maven comes out and says time to up the stakes. Everything instantly dies. We pop into the Crusader Sanctum. And we kick him, and he dies. So we are grabbing the bases there, and those are an important part of our profits. I'm going to cut back to the hideout, and we will look over how much we've earned. All right, so here we are in the hideout, and this is the stash tab from 48 maps, so 12 total sets. We are running every single Maven invitation, and we're trying to Alk and scour them until they are around 70 quantity or above. You could be more picky and re-roll them to 80. I just did 70 for speed, and this is sort of what we got. Big stash tabs full of loot, bunch of maps and things like that. These are all for for our King's March mappers, but the vast majority of our profits are going to be some of this breach ring stuff that isn't priced yet. But we have bunch of beast in here, bunch of basic currency, some scarabs or whatever, and then over here is where I have put the yellow beasts. I sell these on TFT for 1.2 divines for 60 sets or 60 beasts, so full inventory is 1.2 divines there. You could sell these individually for like 1 or 2 C a piece if you so liked, but I just put them up, you know, 5 sets for 6 divines, and this is what we got. We do have a little bit left over, but that'll be for the next set. And then we have almost 800 chaos worth of currency from the bases, and so these are just conqueror bases that sell really well. So if I was to price check this is, I mean, this is supposedly 70 divines. I don't think it's actually 70 divines, but let's look at another one that isn't that expensive. So this base right here, this is like 3 chaos, 4 chaos, whatever. How I price these is I look at the lowest price, and so that lowest price says 9 days ago, so I would just make it 2C. If it gets down to 1C and it doesn't sell, I just delete it. It's no big deal. And then you can see in my earnings here, you know, we have a little bit more, but I've already pulled out most of what I've done from this set. So whole bunch of different just bases, so, you know, 9, 10C, 3C here, 4C there, just kind of nickel and dime. But it all adds up. Occasionally you'll get something like a Raven Mask. These are very useful for chancing into, I think it's the gold that chances into this. So influenced certain unique items, for example, this Crown of Eyes. Hubris circlets that are influenced, specifically Warlord influenced, sell for quite a bit. They sell for almost a divine. So make sure those are on your filter. And then, you know, we have some wands, some bows, things like that. Pretty easy stuff totaling up there. If I was to pop over to Wealthy Exile here, I will bring this up and over on our screen. This is what, and we'll actually click refresh because I just pulled some more stuff out. So we have a total of 79 divines worth of value in those 3 tabs. It's not going to count things like breach rings. It's probably not going to count the full value of stuff like abomination maps or things like that. But generally speaking, you're going to get, you know, tons of value from beasts, tons of value from the Egan stuff that you run, a little bit from All Flames, a little bit from Syndicate medallions. I only got 1 Syndicate medallion in these 48 sets. And then the previous set, I also only got 1. So I've been very unlucky with Syndicate medallions, but we did have a decent amount of All Flames, some Maven's Writs, obviously, Maven's Chisels, Exalted Orbs, things of that nature. You also get Conqueror Exalts. So if I was just looking at price here, we got a Crusader Exalted Orb, we got a Warlord Exalted Orb, got a couple of Lucky Scarabs, so that's nice. But this is where most of the profit is coming from, is beasts, selling the yellow beasts, selling the bases. It all adds up. So this was 80 divines, roughly 79 divines and 48 maps. Each map took me, this was actually a particularly fast map. It's probably because I upgraded the character. I would say previously when I was running this on Molten Strike of the Zenith, before I made the upgrades that I've made so far, we were at about 3.5 to 4 minutes per map. Not super fast, but fast enough. The Maven invitations take 30 seconds. Betrayal take about a minute, depending on how long the betrayal encounter is, but the betrayal save houses are pretty quick as well. You just run in, blast through them, click the chests, and pour it out. Overall, very lucrative strategy, and I just wanted to share it with you guys before we started talking about the upgrades that I've made to the character. All right, guys, so in this section of the video, we're going to be talking about the crafting of the rare items here. So let's start with the Cogwork Ring. You buy a base like this, item level 83, item level 86, it doesn't matter. First, you need to make it rare if it's not already, and then you hit it with a Warlord's Exalted Orb. We need the Warlord's influence for our Bound by Destiny. We need to be wearing at least 2 Warlord items for that increased percent strength. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit it with Rage Essences until we get some other decent suffixes. So we got T6 Cold Res, that's not really good enough for me. Keep going. We got T5 Chaos Res, still not good enough. Let's keep going. So something like this, you know, T2 Cold Res, T1 Intelligence, some increased fire damage. The fire damage doesn't do anything for us, but these aren't bad suffixes. You could stop here if you wanted, but I'm just going to keep going. Okay, so something like this. We got T1 Strength with the Essence. That's guaranteed. We got T2 Fire Resistance, and now we have 2 open suffixes. So what we can do is we can, suffixes cannot be changed on the crafting bench. And we go over to our harvest bench here and we reforge chaos. What we're looking for here is, I would say, T3 or above chaos resistance. You can be pickier. You can settle, you know, T2, T1, but I'm just going to reforge chaos here. See what happens. Cool. We got a T2 chaos resistance. Now from here, you could lock suffixes again and try to go for another great suffix here. So you suffixes cannot be changed. And what do we want to reforge? If you're playing a crit build, you could do reforge critical, and that would, I think, guarantee crit multi here. Yes, it guarantees crit multi if you're using a warlord base. I want to just double check that. Yes. So if you're using warlord base and you're playing dual strike of ambidexterity, the crit multi is guaranteed. So that's really nice. Then you have something like this where you have T1 strength, fire res, chaos resistance, and crit multi. If you're playing Molten Strike the Zenith or you're not at the crit build yet, the elemental ones are way worse because you can get that increased damage there. But ideally, either you hit 2 resistances that you want or 2 attributes and a resistance that you want and then reforge chaos. Or if you have that open one there, then you reforge crit. Probably just sell that ring if you're not a crit build and then move on. So now our suffixes are pretty much done. Then you go and click suffixes cannot be changed one more time. And now we are reforging life, trying to get a very high life roll, T2 or above, ideally. We hit T3. Honestly, I would probably stop here. I'm totally fine with settling for T3 life. And then finally, what you would do is you would mana cost. You craft on minus mana cost of skills, and your ring is done. T1 strength, T2 fire, T2 chaos, and T1 cold. Remember the elemental resistances you can switch around on the harvest bench, and you are good to go. Finally, what we do at the very end is we catalyze it with intrinsic catalysts just to make that strength number go up because we are strength stacking. That's the cogwork ring from start to finish. Essentially just hit it with rage essences until you get decent suffixes, reforge chaos to guarantee some chaos res, finish out the prefixes. Let's move on to the amulet. So I could not import a synth base into Craft of Exile. So this is actually my amulet that I imported and then I scoured it. But this would say 15% increased strength that gets increased to 18% if you use the attribute catalyst. So pretend that's what it says. We need to make it rare. Actually, no, we don't. We can hit it with just rage essences again. Very similar craft to the last one where we're just hitting it with rage essences until we get something nice. So I'm going to kind of speed run through here. Okay, this is actually really good. So we got strength and T2 lightning res on like the 4th essence or something like that. Sometimes lucky. You craft on suffixes cannot be changed. And once again, you hop over to our good friend, the harvest bench, and you reforge chaos. You're hoping for higher chaos res. You could also reforge crit here. If you are dual strike of ambidexterity, you could reforge crit, go for crit chance, go for crit damage. Either of those things are good, but I'm going to do a more universal craft here and just have some chaos res. Well, reforge chaos. We got T5. Honestly, I probably wouldn't settle for T5. I would try to annul this off. We missed, but I'm going to pretend that we hit. You would annul this off. If you miss and you hit the other res, then you just go back to spamming rage essences again. But for the sake of a brief video, I'm going to just remove it using Craft of Exile. So we go here. We craft on suffixes cannot be changed one more time. Harvest crafting, reforge chaos. We hope we get a higher roll. We got T2. This is totally something that I would stick with. And honestly, because it has the increased armor here, I would probably just craft on life and call it good. If you're not interested in the armor as much, what you do is you lock suffixes again, and you reforge life, hoping for a high life roll. We hit T5, not super happy about that. Lock suffixes again, reforge life. We hit T9, not happy about that at all. Lock suffixes again, reforge life. T4, that's okay. Probably craft on minus mana cost. We're 16 div in now plus the base, so it's up to you whether or not you want to settle there. I'm just going to keep going a couple times. T3 is totally fine for me. And we craft on mana cost. And again, you're just you can repeat this process of trying to get the super high life roll essentially an infinite number of times. There is a chance that the Reforge does fill the full prefixes. It's rare. I think it's like a 1 in 10 or something like that. But sometimes that happens, and then you have to 50-50 annul, and hopefully you don't have to start over. But that is the craft for the amulet. And just so you know, the belt craft is exactly the same and functions exactly the same way. You just use a belt instead. You're going for strength, 2 resistances, probably a chaos res in there. And then you reforge life for the prefixes until you get something nice. And then finally, we have the body armor here. So this is actually my body armor as it is right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Orb of Scouring. We do need to make it rare so we can start using fossils on it. And pretty much with all of the body armor crafts for every single build in the game, almost all of them are spam dense fossils until you like your prefixes, and then finish the suffixes with Eldritch Currency. So how that works is 1 socket resonator, more defense, no life. So we're not going to get any life in our prefixes here. And we're just going to spam until the number's decent. We're looking for triple T3, triple T2, triple T1. It depends on how picky you are. This took me quite a few to hit a decent roll on mine. And if we don't hit it in 5 more tries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am just going to cheat. We actually hit T1 and T2 here, but I'm going to pretend that we spammed a bunch more fossils. Let's just double this fossil number, and we hit T2 on the flat armor and energy shield as well. So this is a pretty solid body armor right now. T1, T2, T2. And then what we do is finish out these suffixes. So how we do this is we use Eldritch Currency. So our prefixes are totally safe so long as Eater of Worlds is dominant. So I have a lesser Searing Exarch implicit. You can hit this with a greater and above. And so now Eater of Worlds is dominant. So now what we do is if we annul, it will only annul suffixes, right? So now we're here, and now we can change the suffixes as much as we want using this Eldritch Currency. This already hit a T1 lightning res. So for me, if this was me and this is how my fossil hit, I would stop here, reforge this to whatever essence that I want using the harvest bench, and then craft on attributes. But let's pretend you really want chaos res on your armor. That's what I did because I needed chaos res. So you can just annul until you have an open prefix, or I'm sorry, an open suffix. You craft on prefixes cannot be changed. Over here at the crafting bench, this is 2 divines. And then again, back over to the harvest bench, you reforge chaos, hoping for a high roll. We got a T6. That's not ideal, but since we're on a body armor and since we have Eldritch Currency, we can just remove this using an Eldritch Annul. So we just remove 1. Again, suffixes cannot be changed. Hop over to the harvest crafting bench, reforge chaos. We got T3 and a fire res. Maybe we stop there. It's entirely up to you guys. I'm going to say we didn't. We're going to Eldritch Crafting again. We're going to annul. We're going to prefixes cannot be changed. Back over to the harvest bench. T2 chaos. That's something I would stop at. So now we have T1, T2, T2. We have our fractured strength roll because we bought the base this way. And then we have our T2 chaos. I will finish this out with increased attributes. 6%. And that is your endgame body armor. So the last thing we need to worry about is the Eldritch Implicits. So before we just cared about Searing Exarch being dominant. Now you probably want it dominant anyway with the endgame implicits. Essentially what you do, I like to spam grands because they are not very expensive. You just spam them until you hit the less damage taken per 210 strength, not int, but strength. So we'll spam this a couple times, and again, I'm probably just going to cheat for the sake of making the video shorter. We're using grand, so it'll be 210. And then I have plus 1% to all maximum resistances. This is where I stopped with my implicits. Orb of Conflicts aren't incredibly expensive, but ideally what you would do is you would hit something, you would maybe hit it with just like a random exceptional ember, and then you hit it with an Orb of Conflict, and hopefully this less damage taken goes up. It did not. So then you go again. It did not again. You go again. It finally went up. T3 is fine. I've heard some secret techniques of just spamming Orb of Conflict and you're good to go. We did hit it there. So less damage taken per 190 strength is totally fine with me. You could go all the way up to 180 depending on your budget. And then for the Eldritch currency, for the Exarch, you could just hit this with lessers, and you're just going for maximum to all resistance. So we actually just hit it there. You only get one until you're at, Exquisite, which you don't want anyway, because you want the less damage taken per 190 strength. So the +2 is not really important. So you can just hit this with lesser embers that cost basically nothing until you get +1 to all maximum resistance. You can go up to +2 if you really want, but that's your prerogative. If you're going that far, you probably know how to do it. And then the final bit of crafting that I almost forgot. So the offhand weapon. So if you are playing Dual Strike of Ambidexterity, you need a offhand weapon that has a very fast attack speed. So I'm going the crit version, and I decided to go with Paradoxica. So I need a claw in my offhand, because that is the fastest non-sword item that I can have in my offhand. And then if we hit it with either spell damage essences or attack speed essences, we get the highest possible attack speed. So this is just for Dual Strike of Ambidexterity. If you're playing Zenith, completely ignore this. But let's pretend you were still using the Brutus Lead Sprinkler version, or we can also just pretend that this is a claw. So foils have the same base attack speed as claws. So how we make something like this is basically just a stat stick. We don't really care about any of the stats on it except for attack speed, and any other stats that sound good. So I needed some dex, so this isn't bad. I crafted on the Global Crit Multi. So what I did to make this claw is I bought a claw with the Crit Multi implicit. I'm not going to buy another one. I'm just going to use the foil that I was using in the last video. And we are going to hit it with spell damage essences, which are essences of woe. And we're just going to hit this until we have decent attack speed. If you do not care about the spell damage, if you have enough increased damage and you're just like, nah, man, I don't really care about any of that, this is a much easier craft because you can just hit it with zeal essences. But I'm going to do the spell damage essence because that's what I did with this. And I'm just going to hit it a few times until we hopefully get a decent attack speed roll sometime today. %, isn't okay. There we go. So that is T1 attack speed. So, and we have open suffix. So this is actually a ideal scenario. So we have T1 attack speed. You could divine this up to 27% if you were so inclined. Has a little bit of strength on it, which is nice because we're a strength stacker. Has the spell damage, which gets converted to attack damage with Crown of Eyes. And then we have an open suffix. So this is sort of an ideal scenario. To finish off this craft, it's not very complicated. You pop over here to the Harvest Bench. You put on Global Critical Strike Multiplier. And you are done. This is your sword. If, again, pretend this is a claw if you're using a claw. Any Noble Claw, Imperial Claw, anything with a 1.6 attack speed is totally fine. You can hit it with the Harvest Enchant for more attack speed as well. But you can see if this was divined up to 27%, this would also be a 2.07 weapon with the spell damage, and we're good to go. So that is how you craft that if you're interested in playing Dual Strike of Ambidexterity. And finally, without further ado, we are at the last stage of the character. So I just wanted to talk about the changes that we've made. We already went over the farming strategy. We already went over all the crafts. Let's talk about the shifts that we have made in the build and on the tree and what we've sort of gained from it. So We've been through a bunch of different versions of this character. We started with Slams. We moved into Molten Strike of the Zenith and Smite of Divine Judgment. We also played Dual Strike of Ambidexterity in the last video. But Dual Strike of Ambidexterity really kind of won me over, stole my heart, so to speak. And I really, really liked it. It's really snappy damage. It's like really, really high burst damage. You chunk things. It feels really good. It's really satisfying to play. And because of its visual clarity, I opted to min-max that version a little bit more. So going over the gear, we still have the same ring. The same ring is from episode 1. It's got good fire res. It's all positive mods, and it's got 95 strength on it. And I'm very happy about that. The only way that I could beat this is with a helical ring. And I want to move on to the next build, so I'm not going to make a helical ring. We have our amulet, which I just showed you guys how to craft. I got lucky with mine and got the crit multi, then just crafted on life. This Crown of Eyes is Warlord influenced. So this cost me about 10 or 11 divines to make myself. If you buy this right now, if I was to price check this item, Crown of Eyes with a Warlord influence is like 30 divines, maybe even more. So pretty expensive, but you can make this yourself. It is risky. I do not know the odds of actually getting it. I know that it took me 7 tries. It took me 7 bases. So I bought Warlord Influence Hubris Circlets. I qualityed them up to 20. And then I ran over here to the crafting bench and I typed in unique and I used this craft right here. Basically spammed until my hands hurt the reroll rarity of a non-unique item until it became unique, hoping that it would become a Crown of Eyes. So it seems that the Eber's unification is a lot more common than Crown of Eyes. So you're probably going to hit a few of these before you hit one of these, but I ended up saving, 23 divines or something like that by making it myself. No promises that it's actually cheaper. It might just actually be 30 divines on average to make one, but that is that. You just spam at the crafting bench and hope you get lucky. It's pretty cool. Everything else is, we sort of went over. We are now crit. I opted to go to the Paradoxica version as opposed to Brutus Lead Sprinkler simply because it ended up being more damage in the end. Because of this double damage, it just ends up being way better than an extra strength stack mod, which is why we're not using a strength stack claw here. And we are no longer converting our fire damage to chaos damage. Instead, I'm using a Foulborn the Red Dream for just some increased life. This one jewel gives me almost 900, or it gives me almost 500 life, which is quite nice. And then we change the tree a little bit. So we're coming around here. We are Feral Ascendancy now. Summon Spectral Tiger on critical strike. This gives us attack speed. This gives us crit chance. Very nice. Coming over here, grabbing some life. And then we come all the way around for our split personality, where we ended up getting a very decent cluster. All attributes, strength, energy shield, and armor. All things that we really want. We want some energy shield. We want some armor. We want strength, obviously. And then my split personalities are very specific. So Paradoxica has a pretty high dex requirement. So you need to hit that somewhere. And then Crown of Eyes has a pretty high int requirement. It's 154 by itself. So both of my split personalities are sort of solving that problem for me. So I have strength and dex on one, and I have strength and int on the other. And that allows me to satisfy both of these attribute requirements. And we are good to go. We are crit now. So we would ideally enchant our Paradoxica to have increased crit chance, but it gives us barely any with only 20 quality. So we are crit now. So we're taking these crit nodes over here and over here. I also am using Assassin's Mark, linked to life tap and mark on hit. We are getting the crit from the Hunt Leader as well. And we are using very cheap Grand Spectrums to cap out our crit. So these are like 50C. You don't have to worry about the corruption. 30C, something like that. And I'm using 2 of the crit Grand Spectrums and 1 of the Elemental Resistance Grand Spectrum to fill out my res. Here, and well, darn it, I don't know where the other one is. It's hiding somewhere. It's here. That's our other Grand Spectrum. So those are our jewels. We did move our Timeless Jewel up. These are actually fairly cheap, at least at the time of this recording. We have increased strength here, increased strength here. And then if I was to gain 2 more levels, this is where we would get intimidate. And again, some more strength, some more armor, which is quite nice. But strength here, and then we are using an unnatural instinct to steal all these strength nodes up in here, which is quite nice. Another thing you could do is you could get the Foulborn one. It would disable this notable, but it would, you know, allow you to benefit from all of the small nodes that you have allocated as well. It's entirely up to you. But Unnatural Instinct here is very good. We did switch to a Bound by Destiny, which is why our Crown of Eyes is Warlord. You can buy these perfectly divined for, let's find out, 8 divines. I thought I could do it in less, so I bought 10% and then hit it with 10 divines before I got this. So I spent 13 divines on an 8 divine item. Don't be like me, just get lucky. And that is it. I will say that the only rune graph that we need, that we really care about or need, is this right here. 10% more offhand attack speed. Again, dual strike of ambidexterity uses our offhand attack speed, so we are very fast attacking, and it is very fun to play. That is that. So that's the build. I think this is where I'm gonna call it. I think this is the end of my 0 to hero strength stacker journey. This has been amazing. It's, you know, from the footage that you guys saw, took on Ubers, was farming T16s and T17s totally fine, was handling Conquerors, was handling Delirious, Betrayal, all this stuff. Very cozy build to play, very fast. I'm just interested in playing something else now. I mean, I've been playing this for a couple weeks, and it's time to move on. So I'm very happy with where the build has come. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as well. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you guys want to pop on stream, I'm happy to look at Path of Buildings and things like that. This has been a very long video. Sorry it's so much yapping, but I wanted to get something out. Hope you guys have a great holiday season. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.